Self-care as a tool for success. Why self-care isn't just a fad, but a critical tool for personal and professional development. Thanks for joining me this week, guys. I'm still here in sunny Arizona. It is warm out, but there has been a little bit of rain. And I have an amazing guest to introduce you guys to this week. Her name is Brea Schmidt, and she's founder of the Thinking Branch. And she is a writer, a speaker, a photographer. She's aiming to empower and connect women by creating a safe space to have conversations about the issues that weigh on their heart. And so all my listeners know that that's super important to me, empowering women and connecting them and helping them believe in themselves. And so help me and join me in welcoming Brea from the Thinking Branch. Thanks for joining us, Brea.
Thank you so much for having me. I wish I could jump through your screen because today is the day that Pittsburgh decides it's fall. And I would really prefer to be in Arizona right now. But I'm so glad to be here with you.
I'm glad you're here too. And I'll enjoy some sunshine for you today. So tell us, Brea, I stumbled upon your Facebook group, the Thinking Branch, and I'm a quote sharer, and I love a good quote, but I love meaningful and things that really, promote either thought-provoking or empowering. And I found that on your page and I said, oh no, I have to talk to her. So talk to me about how you started the Thinking Branch and what it's turned into and what you're working on and all the good stuff.
What a loaded question. It's
right?
My favorite one. But first of all, thank you for being a part of our community and for sharing it. Like, that's the point. I obviously am the voice and the creative behind it, but what brings power to the Thinking Branch is the fact that people share the messages and have conversations about the messages. So thank you for that. My journey to the Thinking Branch is really unconventional. I've always said I've never liked that. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Because every position, every job that I've ever had, there was no vision in sight. It was really about me just being very present in where I am. So I am a former professional sports sales executive. So I spent 5 years growing my career in the sales and retention side of professional sports before deciding to become an entrepreneur. And I started my photography business called Photography by Brea, which served families, and I did families and newborns, a little bit of engagement sessions here and there. But the big thing that was happening during that time is I was becoming a mom myself. I was a mom at one point of 3 kids under the age of 4. And here I was working with other moms and families. And what I saw when I showed up to photo shoots is, you can imagine putting a woman in a vulnerable position, put her in front of a camera, first of all, but then put her in front of a camera with her family after she sees all of these perfect pictures on my website of kids being perfect. Like, oh no, my kid's going to be the one that's going to ruin everything. And I just noticed every single session, it was the same thing. They wanted it to be perfect. They were showing me Pinterest pictures that they wanted to recreate. They were self-conscious about their bodies and how their kids were acting. And I got it because I was a mom too. And I just said, I'm like, if I could just get these families to just show up as themselves, how can I do that? And so what I started to do was share stories on my social media page for my photography business, saying, you know what, I don't love motherhood every day. And my kids don't act perfect when I want them to. This is not what life is. And people started connecting with it. And eventually I said, there's something here. And so I created a Thinking Branch as the writing outlet for me. I was a young mom trying to figure out life. I was enduring postpartum depression and anxiety, feeling very alone in everything, and everywhere on the internet was, no, motherhood is wonderful and everything's perfect. I'm like, no, it's not. And so what started as an outlet for me and a place to really just find other people that were dealing with what I was dealing with has now become this beautiful community of over 140,000 people between Facebook and Instagram, where we connect on the real and raw things. And now it's not just about motherhood, it's about life. It's about all the things we deal with and we think about when we're laying up at night, when it comes to managing the various roles we play in our lives as moms, as partners, as working individuals, as friends, family members. And I'm really proud of what it's become and the space that it's created on the internet.
I love it. So I have 2 daughters that are 27 and 28, and they're new moms. And it's being a grandparent has been the best thing that's happened. I love this stage of life. We've got 5 grandkids and they're from 1-year-old to 13. And it's just, we got them all in a year. My oldest daughter adopted 3 children out of foster care. And my youngest daughter we have 2 on her side. So, watching my kids become parents has been really a unique experience. And, I went through the whole empty nesting thing. And, the thing that I've been watching and that I learned, and I think what attracted me so much to your group is, I hear my daughters talk about mom shaming so much. There's so much mom shaming that happens and goes on, and so much judgment. And, the people that are able to paint those unrealistic family looks on social channels, that's not real. And so I found myself with my 2 daughters calling me, and they're like, it cracks me up and it's heartwarming, but it's also like created thought provoking, I guess, ideas in my head, where I'm watching them navigate motherhood. And, they're calling me and they're like, did you really, did I drive you nuts? Did I get on your nerves? Like, cause I'm feeling bad if my kids get on my nerves. And I'm like, yes, you got on my nerves. And they're talking to me and they're like, well, you hit it so well. You made momming look so easy, and it's not easy at all. And I'm like, well, I didn't do that on purpose, but I'm glad that you thought that.
Right. Well, and it's funny you say that, because I had that same experience with my mom. I'm looking at her, I'm like, how did you do this? Like, what? But I think what's interesting is, you talk about this, mom, was it hard for you? What's happening for our generation of moms is we have this social media feed. And here, I'm a person who's built a business and a career and a passion around social media. So it's this weird thing where I think it's what's created the need for it, but I think it's also the space that we can fight it. But in our face every day is every mom's hand-picked highlight reel that she's taken 16 pictures to get the one she wanted. And even though we subconsciously know that that's what we're all doing, in our minds, as we scroll at night, as they're feeding their baby at 3 a.m. or trying to get them to sleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon while the older ones are running around, we start to believe, like, am I the only one that doesn't feel like this is perfect? And that was really difficult for me too, because I'll be honest, here I was with 3 healthy, beautiful kids. I had a business. I had a husband who supports me and loves me, and a family. I was like, who am I? Who am I to struggle? I have a friend who's trying to have a baby, and she would give anything to be in my position. And so the point that you made about this guilt and this shaming that we have, all of our hard gets to be hard, right? Like, I had so many of my friends that would say, oh, I don't have any room to complain around you because you have 3 kids. I only have 1. I'm like, no, your heart is still hard. Yes. Just because I have 3 and you have 1, like, my heart has nothing to do with yours. And I think that, again, it goes back to that idea that we just have the perfection in our face, so that when our days aren't perfect, we are like, well, we're the only one. Like, I must be a terrible parent. I must be, all of it. Like, I'm done calling my mom, calling it, like, I can't figure it out. And so that's why I wanted to start the thinking branch. I wanted to be a place that moms or parents could just stop their feet and go, wait a minute, she's going to remind me that this is normal. This is okay. This is part of it. And that's what I wanted to do, because it was just this unnecessary pressure that we were putting on ourselves because of what we were taking in on social media.
Yeah. And I see that so much happen. And I think you're right. It is generational because, it's different. I'm older, and, I think there are so many people that are living vicariously through those social media opportunities, and they're not real. And I'm an advocate for advocacy, but I'm also an advocate for authenticity. And that's something that I myself am, through my business. I own my own business, and my daughters and I started a nonprofit for women called the Burning Bra.
I read about it.
Thank you. And so it's been a slow process because they're new moms and building their families and those kinds of things. But it's been an interesting adventure. And I see it in women across a vast spread of ages and demographics and career levels. And so I think, there's so many people that are watching that. And we talk about it a lot on this show, actually, with a variety of guests that we have, where, people are trying to, you only have those those moments of, yes, I'm in this fancy restaurant having this wonderful glass of wine and this beautiful plate of food, but that's a one glimpse of who knows what that day was really like. And so I love your authenticity that you bring through in your group and that you're sharing. And so talk to me a little bit about, I know you've started speaking, and doing a lot of speaking engagements. So talk to me about what that's been like.
Oh, it has been the best ever, if that's what it's been like, because, I love the work that I do online. I think it's important. It's where a lot of us are connecting, especially through the last couple of years. This was the place that we found community. But I'm realizing, I've been doing this for 6 years. I've evolved as a person, as a mom. And what started out as me being the toddler mom, then now evolved to me, okay, who am I now that my kids are in school and they don't need me the way that they used to? But, as someone who used to work in the corporate world, and someone who's a business owner herself, I think that there's a need to talk about self-care in the working world. And I remember, being in the corporate world, and what's really encouraging is what we're seeing now in the corporate world is they're creating these business and employee resource groups as ways for individuals within companies to connect and talk about the things that they deal with. And we're seeing a lot of women's groups pop up, women and our allies, for the LGBTQ community, for veterans, all these different groups that come up. And so I was thinking about the messages that we talk about on the thinking branch for moms. And it's funny because I'm like, it shouldn't just be for moms. It should be for dads. It should be for human beings. But I think that this idea of self-care, as we navigate this world where there's so much more pressure at work, there's more pressure at home. We have more families who have two working parents, that, we talk about self-care, and you address this quote at the beginning. It's like this fad. Everyone's like, we know we need to practice self-care. We get it, Brea. Like, I bring up the word and everyone's like, here we go. But when you really think about it, when we think about like so the companies that I'm speaking to and these groups that I'm speaking to, we're talking about self-care as a tool for success. We will go to conferences and try to build our communication skills and our public speaking skills and all of those things. But without self-care, we can't pick up those tools and use them to their full ability. Right. So this past weekend, I spoke at a conference among a group of my blogging peers, and there's all these people in the crowd that, we're going to the ones about how to start a podcast and how to do this. But if we don't have the belief in ourselves, if we don't know who we are, if we don't take the time to find the quiet and go, what do I really believe? And am I chasing something that someone else believes, or am I chasing what's important to me? Or what part of me needs some work, right? Like, what part of me needs some work so that I can get to that place? And I think it's the companies that understand that individuals are coming to work as whole human beings and not just employees are the ones that get it. And so I've been coming in and speaking to some of these groups just to talk about self-care. And I think the key, Monica, one of the things that almost held me back from having a social media platform was this idea of, I'm tired of, there's so many platforms that'll tell you what to do. They'll tell you how to parent, tell you like how you should do this. Same thing with self-care. People love to tell people how to practice self-care, but I believe that self-care looks different for everybody. And so with my talks, it's not about me coming in and being the expert on self-care. I'm not over here as a degree holder in self-care. I'm coming in as someone who has a gift of vulnerability to talk about my own journey and create space where we often don't create space to decide what is self-care for me. Like, it might look like a yoga class for this person, but for me, it might be rolling my window down on the highway and throwing on some 90s jams and jamming out because that brings me joy. But we don't stop long enough to think about what that is. And so that's what I am really proud of in the work that I do, is that it's not about me coming in as the expert. It's just about creating the space. I call it the stick in the hamster wheel, right? Like, we run the hamster wheel, you put a stick in it, you have to stop and really think about what your approach is. And that's what I've been doing with my speaking. And it has been just such a new joy for me. That's just different than what I've been doing over the last couple of years, but it just feels equally important as it did when I started to try to reach moms.
Well, I applaud you for putting yourself out there. It can be
Thanks.
hard and challenging to be vulnerable, right? And to share our vulnerabilities. And, I've learned through this, I've always been self-reflective and a thought, a thinker. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more confident in who I am. And I went through a whole phase where I was like, self-care is not selfish. Self-care is not selfish. And I think that's a super important, train of thought to have, because we can feel guilty as moms in taking time out to go get our nails done or get a pedicure or get a massage or read or be quiet or use the restroom without people beating on the doors or sticking their fingers underneath it.
What a concept, right?
Right. Right. And so I love that you're doing that. And to your point, it's so funny, when you were talking just a minute ago, I was thinking about you had posted something in the thinking branch, and it spoke to me for my daughters. And so I sent it to both of them in a text. And my oldest daughter, who has the 3 children out of foster care, and she is, they've got needs, and she's really a lot of days drowning and trying to manage her circus. I told her she was a ringleader. She needed to add that to her resume. But when I told her that I was going to have you on the show, and I said, I'm really excited to meet her and talk to her. And I really think you both would find a lot of value in her page. And Brittany's my oldest. And she said, I saw that you sent me something, and I thought it was telling me how to parent. And I have enough people telling me how to parent. I'm like, no, this is different. And so that's what the listeners need to hear, is this is different. This is someone that is not just sharing all the beautiful things and how easy it is. She's sharing the hard things too. And, to your point, where I don't think pre-pandemic, we were all on such go, 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 that people don't stop and settle with themselves to say, what does self-care for Monica look like? Or what does self-care for Brea look like? And that can be very different depending on the individual. And so the other thing that made me laugh, that same daughter, who now I'm sure has gone and read your stuff, your page, and joined your group, she has a car wash membership. And so I laugh because that's her quiet place. And so she posted about it on Twitter, and she said, when she's stressed out and the principal's calling and they've got therapy here and this, that, and the other, she'll go get her coffee and she'll go drive through the car wash. Now, she might go to the car wash 7 times in 1 week, but that's her quiet space.
Whatever you got to do. See, I love that. That is such a great example of, like, someone else might go, really, a car wash? Me, I'm dying laughing because I literally said that same thing. I was like, it's just the, like, monotony. I don't know what the word is, but like the sound, it feels like a meditation. And I'm like, am I the only one going through a car wash being like, this is self-care? But I love that. And you brought a tear to my eye when you said that about how you feel, because it's one of those things that as somebody who's been on the internet for 6 years now, and, I have to check in with myself every so often, because even as someone who's very aware of trying not to be someone that tells someone what to do, I'm very aware that sometimes it may come across that way. I've had people that have written me and said, I know your intent in this post was to be helpful, but you actually really triggered me. And I understood why. And I think I've just had to come to that conclusion that as long as I literally, every time I post something, I take a breath and I'm like, who is this for? Is it for me to, like, be on my soapbox and to say, this is what I believe? Or am I sharing this because I truly believe that there is at least one other person out there that's going to go, thank God she said it, because I needed somebody to say it. But yeah, I think that's really powerful. And I think, I want to address the thing, what we talk about with, like, mom guilt. I was talking to a new mom the other day about this idea of, like, mom guilt. It's not real. It's like it's the feeling is very real. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely validate that feeling of guilt is very real, but who decided that a mom going out to dinner with her girlfriends is, like, it makes her a bad mom? Who decided that a mom who goes to yoga class every day, every week, or a 5 a.m. class every week, or gets a babysitter every couple of nights is bad? It's the internet that decided that. But it's like, for me, it's like, what makes me a good mom? It's whatever I believe is a good mom and who I want to be. I want to measure myself against what I believe is a good mom, what I want for my kids, what I want for myself. That's what I want to measure against. So when I make a decision, is going to this dinner with my girlfriends tonight, even though my husband and my kids are having a movie night, am I going to feel guilty because they're doing a movie night and mommy's going out with their friends? And I had to reframe that in my mind to say, it's okay, because me choosing me every so often, and me choosing me by going out and being with friends and being able to get some of that stuff that I think about out of my head into my friends is choosing my kids. Because when I come back to parenthood, I have given myself that space to release a little bit so that it doesn't come out as impatience or feeling, holding my kids accountable for the way I'm feeling because I haven't gone and done self-care. And I also believe that part of motherhood is showing my kids how to do self-care. So how do I do that if I don't model it for them? And that was another thing that really changed for me is when I started seeing like my kids will go, you know what, I need a little me time right now. And I'm like, yes, like that. And that to me is like all those times that I thought having me time, or I allowed the internet to make me believe that having me time made me a bad parent, was actually a tool that I was using to show them how to do it. Because what do I want for my kids? I want them to grow up and be everything that they are, regardless of what they, if they decide to be parents, God willing, if they want to be, or if they become a career, whatever it is, I want them to be their whole selves. So how can I show that to them if I give up everything I was before just because I'm a mom now? Right. Yeah. And so I think that is, that took me a long time to get to. I've been a mom for 10 years now and I'm still learning it. But I think that's my biggest message to new moms is to remember that being a whole human being and not giving up everything that you were before you entered into motherhood is part of what makes you an incredible mom for your kids. And we have to stop letting the internet say otherwise.
That's so valid. I mean, so valid. And, I think about my own daughters and watching them go through their growth and their, what they're gleaming from the internet or outside sources to be, good or not good. But I know I have the beauty of watching now, and I've told my kids this their whole life. I said, parenting doesn't come with an instruction manual. It's not a one size fits all. Every kid's different. There's no instructions. You just, do the best you can and hope for the best. And unfortunately, you don't find out the results of your parenting until your kids are grown. And then you're like, aha, you have aha moments. And you're like, that's what that did. And so I've had a lot of aha moments, but, I've always been very open with my girls, and you're totally right. Like your kids will do what you do. They will model after your behaviors. And so if it's normal for you to have me time, then that's not a stigma that they're going to grow up having. And, I think that that's such a critical point because you lead by example, even in your family and with your children. And so teaching them that at a young age, I would be elated for my younger kids to have said, I just need some me time. Yeah. That's a win. That's a total win.
I would say that's probably one of the biggest shifts I had in reframing that, like that me choosing to go do something for myself was not choosing my kids, when actually it was like a phenomenal way to choose them because they were going to get a more centered mom when I came back.
100%. And one of my favorite sayings is you can't pour from an empty cup. And, I say that to my team, my employees, I say that to my kids, if you need some refill time, if that looks like, 15 minutes of bath time, then that looks like 15 minutes of private bath time, and so whatever that means to do that. So I love what you are about. I love the group. I love your messaging. I love that you're sharing the vulnerability. And so, for people following along, what's the best place for them to follow you? I know that you have the Facebook group, the Thinking Branch.
So it is a page. So like sometimes I always say, 140,000 community members, because the word followers makes me want to just fall over. You don't follow me. Like I did not start this to have followers, right? It's a community, right? And so, but it is a page that anyone can follow. You can on Facebook. I'm at Facebook and Instagram. It's at the Thinking Branch. For businesses, I'm also on LinkedIn, where I talk a lot about the business of being an influencer, as well as some of the speaking engagements that I do. But those are the two places to connect with me. And I always like to share with everyone, like, I do not have a social media manager. If you message me or if you make a comment and you see a response to the comment, it is me. And I love to hear from moms who have stories that come out of the stories that I share. And I love to hear, and if you are somebody who either is part of an employee resource group, or if your company has one and you say, hey, this would be a really great topic for us because burnout is real. People are struggling. People are having a hard time balancing it all. Reach out to me, let me know what that group is, and we can talk about how we can bring some of these messages about self-care and honoring ourselves as whole human beings to your company as well. But my email address, if you want to email me, if you don't do the social media thing, it's Brea, which is BREA @thethinkingbranch.com.
I love that. And, I've worked for the last 32 years of my life in property management, which is a very female led industry. Um, Except for at the top, it's a lot of
Mm,
males, in your C-level suite, type positions. And so there are a lot of organizations that are creating the groups for women like you're talking about. And so I would love to see you cross over into the property management sector, because there's so many women that are dual focused, where they're, climbing that career ladder, that corporate ladder, and focused on their career and trying to manage home. And it's a lot. And I think, the realness that you bring and the authenticity to, yes, the kids are not always clean and the house isn't always perfect and life is not always, rainbows
yeah.
and unicorns, is something that everybody needs to hear. And so I think there's opportunity for us to, a lot of my network are property management folks. And I hope that the listeners, understand that Brea is somebody that can come into your company and talk from a real space and provide, some tools and tips and tricks for, getting out of burnout phases, or how to juggle it all, or finding the humor in the day-to-day monotony that is motherhood, right?
Yes.
So
Right.
it's never a dull moment. So I encourage the listeners to please reach out to Brea. Hopefully we'll be able to have you back down the road, and I know our paths will cross again. But thank you so much for coming on today. It's been such a pleasure talking to
Yeah,
you.
and thank you. You bring such a light. It's funny, how I don't think anything will ever replace in-person connection. But I think we've all learned that there is a power in being able to connect online as well, and how cool it is that it brings people together. But you bring such a light to the work that you do and the way that you support women, and in the work that you do. I want to commend you for that too. And I'm just really grateful that you are part of our community and saw the message that we have in our community as something you want to bring on your podcast. So thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So guys, if you haven't followed the Thinking Branch, please go do that. And, connect with Brea. I think that you guys will be pleasantly surprised at a lot of the material that she puts out and a lot of the messaging that she has for you. So thanks for listening in, guys. Have a great week, and we'll be back soon.